Our selection is My L is Standing By. Everywhere you go, there is trouble.
There is trouble.
Everywhere you go, there is strife.
There is strife.
Everywhere you go, there is something that worries you. But remember,
My hell is standing by.
everywhere you go, there is trouble.
There is trouble.
Everywhere you go, there is strife.
There is strife.
Everywhere you go, there is something that worries you. But remember,
My hell is standing by.
oh, yours is standing by.
No need to cry.
Yours is standing near.
No need to fear.
Yahshua will be right there.
He's everywhere.
Oh, you roll yourself out the way.
Yeah.
Hear you when you pray.
Oh yes.
Hear you when you call.
Yeah.
Catch you before you fall.
Oh yes.
Yahshua is my friend.
Yeah.
He'll be there till the end. So remember,
My hell is standing by.
yours is standing by.
No need to cry.
Yours is standing near.
No need to fear.
Yahshua will be right there.
He's everywhere.
Oh, he'll roll your dark clouds away.
Yeah.
Hear you when you pray.
Oh yes.
Hear you when you call.
Yeah.
Catch you before you fall.
Oh yes.
Yahshua is my friend.
Yeah.
He'll be there till the end. So remember,
My hell is standing by.
oh, remember,
My hell is standing by.
remember.
My hell is standing by.
The oracles of the UCI, 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua HaMashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love as the Mashiach has loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear, than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame, and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. As you guys can see, the title of today's sermon is Why America Will Be Destroyed. This is a very intricate topic, and we're going to have to get into some things. We have to first understand that no kingdom has ever lasted forever. This is one thing that you have to first get through your head before you deal with anything else. Everybody believes that what they have going on is better than what was there before. Nothing has lasted forever. When you deal with what happened during the time of the Egyptian pharaohs, they believed that they were man gods. They ruled the earth, but they were only able to rule the earth for a certain amount of time. And eventually it was toppled. You have the Greeks and the Romans, which ruled the earth, but they were only able to do it for a certain amount of time. America has been on the top of the food chain, doing a whole lot of things, doing whatever she wants. She has been able to set her currency as the de facto currency to buy oil that she doesn't even have. So understand that when we just get it through our head that no rulership is going to last forever, if we get that in our head, then it's going to be easier for us to understand some things. Yahweh set forth, restarted the earth with the sons of Noah, and a representative from those sons were able to have their chance at ruling the earth. You have the Gentiles, you have Shem, Ham, and Yafet. You have Shem, which is going to rule as far as their representative last, because that's where Israel comes from. You have Ham, which is where the Africans come from. They were the first ones to rule the earth. That's what the pharaohs were. They were Hamites. They were Africans. Then you have Yafet, which was the Gentiles, and they are ruling the earth now. So one thing that we find out is this change of power that happens with the Gentiles is also synonymous with the children of Israel being delivered. Acts chapter 7 and verse 6 says, And Elohim spake on this wise, that his seed should sojourn in a strange land, and that they should bring them into bondage and entreat them evil 400 years. And if you notice, we continually hear everybody's protesting, and they keep saying 400 years. Now, a lot of them don't even know what the correlation with that is. And the nation to whom they shall be in bondage will I judge, said Elohim. And after that shall they come forth and serve me in this place. For thus says Yahweh of hosts, Zechariah 2 and verse 8, After the glory has he sent me unto the nations, which spoiled you. For he that touches you touches the apple of his eye. For behold, I will shake my hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants, and you shall know that Yahweh of hosts has sent me. Jeremiah chapter 22 and verse 13 says, woe unto him that builds his house by unrighteousness, and his chambers by wrong, that uses his neighbor's service without wages, and gives him not for his work. This entire nation was built on the hands and backs of another people, not the people who are of the ruling class. It is well known that it was built by somebody else's service. And because the judgment didn't come right away, people believe that judgment will not come. Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 12 says, woe to him that builds a town with blood and establish a city by lawlessness. We know that the natives that were here were all but killed off when the Europeans got here. So you have one entire ethnic group that was all but killed off, another one that was bought and enslaved to build the entire nation for free. And the very Fortune 500 companies that we work for today were built with slave money. So the abolishment of slavery, or so-called abolishment of slavery, did not get rid of slavery, and it sure didn't get rid of slave money. That slave money is still in the same place where it was before. Isaiah chapter 33 and verse 1 says, woe to you that spoileth, and you were not spoiled, and dealeth treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with you. When you shall cease to spoil, then you shall be spoiled. When you shall make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with you. And for this reason, you have fear in the eyes of the American power structure, because they do not want to stop being deceitful, because they're worried that deceit is going to come to them. Because they remember exactly what they did. They remember exactly how they built this place. No matter how many stories they give us, no matter how many smiles they give us, everyone knows what was done. And it was documented in their books. So it's not hard for us to find what things took place. So we're going to begin today's sermon in Exodus chapter 1. And we're going to read verses 8 through 22. Please check your emails to make sure that you have the trivia questions. As my elder used to say, if you got a roast, you might want to tend to it, because this might take a while. Also, we're going to try something for Bible trivia. I'm going to set that time at 5:30. And we're going to try to do that on a Zoom conference. So go download Zoom or whatever, get all that together and have that together by 5:30. We will email you guys the link. And also you can call in on that as well if you're just doing it from your phone. And we'll get that together. But just so you know, that is what you need to be working on getting together, so that when we get ready to start, you'll be ready. Exodus chapter 1, and let's start that at verse 8.
Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
So we automatically have a change in the children of Israel were in Egypt at one point, and then there's a change. A direct change to their status in that land. So we have gone through a complete status change from being one thing to being something else. And that ends up causing an issue. Go ahead.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falls out any war, they join also unto our enemies.
So even the most powerful kingdom on the earth was afraid of their subjects or their servants rising up against them. So please don't think it's something strange that America believes the same thing. The most powerful kingdom that ever stood. Matter of fact, America still models their thing after Egypt. And they were afraid of the little servants that they had in there. So that same paranoia that you see in the beginning of this book is also at the end of this book. Go ahead.
And fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
Right, and we see that America did just that when during one of those world wars, they threw the Asians in concentration camps, and they had not done anything. So if you believe that that's a far-fetched thought, think again. They have already done it. They took Asians who had done absolutely nothing wrong and threw them in concentration camps because they might join in and fight. Not that they had done anything. Go ahead.
Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens.
So we are supposed to work. When you look at the working situation that we have here in America, when you find the most difficult jobs, you find us, so-called African Americans, doing those jobs. It is purposely done for us to work very, very stringently so that afterwards you don't have any more time for anything else. You don't have any more energy for anything else. See, when you've been working for 13 hours, you're not going to then go and protest. You're not going to go march. You've been marching for 13 hours. Work them to the bone. That's a tactic. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, and this time makes it difficult because most of us don't have any jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the people are revolting all across the nation.
Right, and I think it was set up that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I don't believe that this is just by happenstance. This is giving them the ultimate opportunity to push their martial law.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses.
Look, does any of this sound familiar? They built treasure cities. When we build treasure cities for them, they stand. When we build treasure cities for ourselves, they mysteriously burn down. When we have our Rosewoods, our Black Wall Street, somehow gasoline flows through the streets and matches just keep getting lit. Somehow barrel bombs fall out the sky. And not one person gets convicted of a crime. Go ahead.
But the more they afflict them, the more they multiplied and grew.
Right. Welfare was was exactly what they put us in, a project. It was a project to slow down the growth of the African American community. That project said basically demean the power of the man. We will give the mother money, but there cannot be a man in that household. And welfare mothers produce welfare children that produce more welfare children. And the way that it was set up, they would come and have checks in those project homes and make sure that there was no man in them. Now, you know a man had to be there because they keep having children. So it was a man there somewhere, but he couldn't live there. Taking the power of the man lower and lower and lower. And after that had ran for so many decades, then it was time to snatch the entire program out so that there would be shock among the children of Israel. So there are devised schemes that were doing this very same thing. But the more they afflicted them, the more they grew. The more they put heavy burdens upon us, the more we keep growing. Go ahead.
And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him.
Right. The push was to kill the males. See, the males produce the seed, which is what builds the nation. You will then use the women as incubators for your own seed. So this created a certain kind of problem amongst black men and women, because the attacks didn't come to the woman. So we had an entire generation of women, especially after the Martin Luther King era, who believed that the men were just whining. Because the problems that we were facing out in the world, they were not facing in corporate America. So they thought we were just lying. So there was a real disconnect between the black man and his woman, because the assault came at the man. The assault was not at her. Now we're starting to see, if you notice in these marches, it's more women talking than men. We're starting to get our queens back. Now they starting to feel us and understand that we were not just complaining. We were not just making this up. So we already had Caucasians who thought we were making it up. Then some of us went home and our women thought we were making it up. Because they said, look, I just been working with some Caucasians all day and ain't nobody mess with me. What you talking about? Every time they go up for a promotion, they get one or two of them. So it seemed like we were making this stuff up. But the queens are seeing that in this time, they are attacking all of us. And the queens are now stepping up. Go ahead, bro.
But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared Elohim, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives, and said unto them, why have you done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and are delivered the midwives come in unto them. Therefore Elohim dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty.
Right. The people continued to multiply because they said, this device that you are trying to get us to use to kill these people, I am not going to do. So what do you see? You see the people who stand to gain the most refusing to do that thing against some innocent people. America is lacking a lot of that. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, because the midwives feared Elohim, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born you shall cast into the river.
Okay, stop. First, it was given to a specific group to kill the people. All right? Kill the Hebrew children when they are first born. All right, so that didn't work. Now it has gone out as a broad thing amongst all the people. So what does this do? So even if one of those kids, if the midwives don't do it, you see these men, children, these black boys, you kill them. You give that. I'm charging all of the people that this is what you're supposed to do. Is this not what we're seeing here? Is that not what's happening here in America? When one device didn't work, they charged the entire nation. This is what you do. So either they do it through their police force or they have a citizen's arrest. And had it not been for a certain amount of coverage, we would not even know about this brother that got killed during their citizen's arrest. Go ahead.
You know, even on this thing where he says he sends the decree out to all his people. I think I sent out the Instagram message where the people are really on edge and just waiting. What the guy said, All the president has to do is just give us the word, and we'll have this over in an hour.
Yep. They have been stacking up ammunition for quite some time. They are ready to go to war. They are war-hungry people. And this will give them an opportunity to go to war. America in general, I mean, are war-hungry. So, that's why America is in everybody's land telling them how they should treat their people while they mistreat the people in their own nation. But what they don't know is Yahweh has some different things going on. Go ahead.
And every daughter you shall save alive.
Every daughter you shall save alive. So we then have a makeup. We have a setup for how these things are being done. Now, we have to deal with the why. It said point blank, the children of Israel were growing greater and mightier in number. All right, now let's read some things here. Brother Kish, I want you to start reading from this article here. And I think this one comes directly from a CNN story here. And we should be at graphic number 5.
White minority, majority change in America. By 2050, minorities will be the majority in America.
Stop. Was that not the problem in Egypt? Was that not the problem in Egypt? The problem was the numbers of the so-called immigrants. Now, everybody here is an immigrant, but, people have selective amnesia when it comes down to that. But because the numbers were growing of certain people, now there's paranoia that something must be done. This is the same problem. So the same thing that happened in Egypt is happening in America. Go ahead.
And the number of residents older than 65 will more than double, according to projections released Thursday by the U.S. Census Bureau. Minorities classified as those of any race other than non-Hispanic, single-race whites, currently constitute about 1/3 of the U.S. population, according to the census figures.
Right. Now, this census is some very interesting stuff, because we're going to get a little bit deeper into the census. But go ahead.
But by 2042, they are projected to become the majority.
By 2042, they are projected to become the majority. Go ahead.
Making up more than half the population. By 2050, 54% of the population will be minorities.
So you see, we are at that place where the white supremacists are on edge, because the bottom line is their reproduction rate does not match the reproduction rate of everybody else in the nation. So they could not make themselves multiply more. So what's the other alternative? We do mathematics. If you can't take it from one end, you take it from another end. So since I can't add on this end, how about I just kill on the other end? And that way I can even out these numbers. Go ahead.
Minority children are projected to reach that milestone even sooner. By 2023,
By 2023, go ahead.
the Bureau said more than half of all children will be minorities.
So we keep looking and we say, man, why would they shoot a little kid who's 12 years old playing in the park with a toy gun? By 2023, the Census Bureau says that more than half of all children will be non-white.
2.5 years.
It's 2020 now. So do we understand why the heat has been turned up? Go ahead, brother.
Part of it is a higher fertility rate for some of the minority groups.
Right. What it say? The more they afflicted Israel, the more we grew. And they have all kind of devised means now of controlling our fertility rate. This is what the ban on abortion was about. See, when they had abortions, they were trying to make it, seem like our people were getting all the abortions. Then all of a sudden, there's this ban on abortions. What was happening is the Caucasians was having more abortions, which was affecting their fertility rate. So everybody else, and they wasn't not having babies because they didn't have money. They had money. But the American dream says 2.5 kids and a dog. So they wouldn't go over that number. They got a 15-room mansion with 2 kids. We got a 15-room mansion. We putting a kid in every last one of those rooms. Go ahead.
Hispanics in particular, said David Weddington, chief of the Census Bureau's Population Projection Branch, which issued the report, those groups also tend to be more of the childbearing age. Non-Hispanic white people tend to be a little bit older. The projections are based on Census 2000 results and assumptions about future childbearing, mortality rates, and net international migration, the Bureau said.
So they're studying all of these things. Okay? Go ahead.
The group predicted to post the most dramatic gain is the Hispanic population.
Okay, so we start to, as you look at the numbers, start paying attention to the presidential agenda and what groups he hates the most. So the biggest gain is going to be the Hispanics. He started fighting them day 2. He said, all right, I swear to be the president, and I'm going to be the president, and I'm going to do presidential stuff. Day number 2, get these Mexicans out of here. Right. Numbers. He started immediately on them. He didn't start on us right away. See, we got selective amnesia. He did not start on us right away. He started on them right away. Numbers first. They're the biggest threat first. So the first way to get them, they keep getting over here through migrating. So he's got to stop that. Go ahead.
And he didn't have to start on us first because we've fallen for the dream of the 2.5 kids in the
You got it. You got it. We fell for it. We fell for it. And it was a real problem because some of us get pregnant if you look at us the wrong way. Go ahead.
It is projected to nearly triple from 46.7 million to 132.8 million. From 2008 through 2050, the Bureau said, its share of the total U.S. population is expected to double from 15 to 30%. Thus, 1 in 3 U.S. residents would be Hispanic, the Census Bureau said in a news release.
Right. So then you have this issue that he has to start dealing with. So now, understanding those numbers, they like to then play games with the numbers. This is how you know that the things that are happening in the streets are not just a thing. It is their system that was set up. Go to graphic number 6.
The African American population is projected to increase from 41.1 million to 65.7 million by 2050, going from 14% of the U.S. population to 15%. The Asian American population is expected to increase from 15.5 million to 40.6 million.
Another group that he has greatly been against. Okay? So you can mark the things as to which groups are being attacked by also the rate in which they're growing in America. Go ahead.
Or from 5.1% to 9.2% of the population. Meanwhile, the non-Hispanic white population is not expected to post dramatic gains in the same period. By 2050,
non-Hispanic white. Okay? So, in other words, everybody other than Gentiles are multiplying. And instead of figuring out why they're not multiplying, let's kill all the other people. Go ahead.
By 2050, whites are expected to number 203.3 million, slightly increased from the 2008 number of 199.8 million.
All right, you need to just stop and think about that. From 2050 to 2008, the number only goes from 199.8 to 203.3. I need you to ponder on those numbers for a second. Go ahead, brother.
Whites will comprise.
Oh, and this is their report, by the way. This is not EsaacBenIsrael.com. Okay? I want y'all to understand that. This is not my report. Okay? Go ahead.
Whites will comprise 46% of the U.S. population by 2050, down from the current level of 66%, the Bureau said, as the group is projected to lose population in the 2030s and 2040s.
They will comprise 46% of the population by 2050. So, from down from 66%, that's a 20% drop. Now understand, the average white American has absolutely nothing to do with this. So let us also understand where the line is drawn from this. You have the white supremacist agenda, then you have the regular Caucasian white male who some of us go to work with, we hang out with. They don't have nothing to do with this. This is not their plan. But also understand, us being friends with them will never stop this, because they are not in control of these things. So it doesn't matter how many white friends we have. They are not the ones that are pushing the white supremacist agenda. They didn't ask for it. They didn't have anything to do with it, yet it still rolls. Go ahead.
Non-Hispanic whites make up most of the baby boomers, Waddington said. They're in a higher mortality rate. Non-minority groups tend to be older and dying off faster, instead of reproducing at the rate projected for minorities. Obviously, the projections will have very strong policy implications, he said. Medical care for an increasingly elderly population. For instance, educational needs for increasing numbers of minority children and economic effects for the labor force. By 2050, 62% of the nation's children will be minorities, up from 44% today. Of those, 39% are projected to be Hispanic, up from 22% in 2008. And 38% are projected to be white, down from 56% in 2008. The percentage of the U.S. population between the ages of 18 and 64, the working age population, is projected to decrease to 57% in 2050 from 63% in 2008. The working age population will become more than 50% minority in 2039.
Right. The working age population will become more than 50% minority in 2039. Go ahead.
And by 2050 will constitute 55% of the population. By 2050, the working age population will be more than 30% Hispanic, up from 15% in 2008. 15% African American, up from 13% in 2008. And 9.6% Asian, up from 5.3% in 2008.
Right. And when you go through those biggest gains in those ethnic groups, that is also where you find the biggest part of the discrimination along those same groups. So do understand, this is not just something that some cops do or something that happens. There's a reason behind the things that we are encountering. And that's before you even add the God of Israel into this scenario. So now, as all of these things are going on, we also have the census that's showing up at our doors. They'll send you letters. If you don't open the door, if you don't answer the census, they're going to come to your house. Oh, they talk, I mean, census, they done put on the big draws. They talking junk. They going to do all this stuff. So now we got the big bad census, the one that's keeping all the numbers. Now, let's look at some things that's happening with the census.
New census is wiping out populations, miscounting minorities.
Purposely. Because where the count is also where the money is being diverted for programs and such. So on one end, you have this growing number of so-called minorities that's creating some issues, right? But now you have the census that has developed a way to fudge those numbers. Go ahead.
The Census Bureau is rolling out a new algorithm intended to protect respondents' privacy, but experts warn the change will significantly miscount minority communities in rural areas. Specifically, the Census Bureau plans to use a new differential privacy algorithm to obscure respondents' identities.
Right. They say it's about keeping the identities. You know, this is about they gonna protect us. Yeah, they doing this for us. You know, the differential privacy algorithm. They always have a good name for one of their programs. All right. So this is the new algorithm, and it's meant to hide the identities of people. Go ahead.
Yet state experts warn that the data could result in population errors of 25% or more and misrepresent certain groups by 100% or more. This would have dramatic results in redistricting and funding.
Redistricting and funding. See, this is why the racism is systemic, meaning that it is a system of things. It's not just something that has happened, because this constant redistricting is one of those things that allows them the opportunity to manipulate representatives, manipulate who gets to make decisions in certain areas, manipulate who gets control of this area, manipulate who gets money to have a really nice school while somebody else ends up going to school in a place that don't even know what a computer is. That's what these policies do. Go ahead.
You know, I was looking at the census, and for some reason...
Oh, you looked at it?
Yeah. There's some reason, or one of the kids was reading it, and it stated something about a country. A specific country was put on there. And it's like, if they're making these changes, where are you going to put those people from that country? What category are you going to put them in?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, keep reading, bro.
The data released by the Bureau is expected to be accurate on the state level.
Here is the game. Accurate on the state level. So the state as a whole will still get all the funding money, will still get everything that it's supposed to receive to that state. But watch the game. Go ahead.
But its sub-state level data, region, county, city, town, will be intentionally distorted. So if you have 55,000 people who need some assistance indicator, I change those numbers, that assistance money goes to Buckhead. They don't need no assistance. Right. Go ahead. In the past, the Bureau used data swapping to ensure individuals in small populations were not identifiably by certain statistics by aggregating their data with similar individuals while keeping the population totals accurate, according to the National Council of State Legislators. But concerns that the data could be cross-referenced with other information that could make individuals identifiable led the Bureau to implement a differential privacy algorithm that will inject noise into the raw data. Though the Bureau is still working out how it will implement this, the move immediately raised concerns. Differential privacy will mean that, except at the state level, population and voting age population will not be reported as enumerated.
Except at the state level. So the first thing they did was make sure that the states would not lose anything, but we're going to jumble around the data from within inside the state. So the state has no reason to argue, because I'm going to get everything that I'm supposed to get. It's the individual counties and cities within that state that are going to lose. Go ahead.
And race and ethnicity data are likely to be farther from as enumerated data than in past decades, when data swapping was used to protect small populations, according to the NCSL. This may raise issues for racial block voting analysis.
Next graphic.
The Bureau released a demonstration to states to test out the new method using data from the 2010 census, and experts quickly realized that the data was very different from the original 2010 numbers, particularly in rural areas.
So you have the Census Bureau coming to your house, beating the door down to get accurate numbers, only to report them inaccurately, intentionally. Go ahead.
Meredith Strom-Gunter of the Weldon Cooper Center for Public Service at the University of Virginia warned Governor Ralph Northam in a January memo that data on the sub-state level will be sacrificed for privacy, which could lead to misallocation of funds, poor capacity for planning, and a competitive disadvantage in economic and workforce development.
And this is known. Go ahead.
For example, we found the total number of girls ages 15 through 19 in the city of Emporia were decreased from the actual 185 to only 30, she wrote.
Now, let's see what this does. See, you think that one changing of one number doesn't mean much. Listen, go ahead.
Applying this number to the teen pregnancy rate for Emporia increased the rate from 10% to 66%.
All right, now watch the game. So then I can claim that teenage pregnancy in this black area over here is off the charts. And how did they do that? By only changing the numbers of the census. Then it changed every other report under it. So they didn't have to go and manipulate all the rest of the reports. All they have to do is manipulate the census number. Now it looks like 75% of our children are pregnant at 14. What a game. And we think it's just some lonely cop on the street. This is a system. Go ahead.
This is not only ludicrous, but if consistent across localities and subject areas, deeply damaging to the ability of state and local governments and nonprofits to accurately address the needs of Virginians. The population of small Native American reservations with fewer than 5,000 residents saw their populations decline by an average of 34% in the demonstration.
I want you to pay attention now as we're reading, because you know these are coming from different articles and whatnot. But one thing you're going to notice is the so-called minorities are the ones that just so happen to see their numbers decline. Now, and one thing we see that it is being a situation where they're fighting against the majority versus minority. Yet when it comes down to the census and reporting who's going to get funds for certain things, all of a sudden those numbers also change according to the color of the individuals. Go ahead.
Small Alaskan villages saw population declines even though they continued to grow. An analysis by Utah officials saw 15,000 actual residents disappear from the count. 2 cities lost more than 50% of their populations. 20 cities lost 20% of their populations. And 43 cities lost 10% of their populations.
Now, what happens then if these people are losing population? That means somebody else is gaining it. All right? So if it's going to be something divvied out per household, if they lie about where those households are, then that money goes another direction. All right? So all of these say they lost. Keep going.
Utah House Speaker Brad Wilson and Senate President Stuart Adams said in a letter to Stephen Dillingham, the director of the Census Bureau. Another city, on the other hand, saw a 253% population increase.
You see the game? Do you see the game? All the other places lost, while one other place just reported a 253% increase. They're going to divert all their attention and money to that city. And all they have to do is change the census number. And they keep telling us the census is important. Yes, it's really important for us to take advantage of you. Go ahead.
Not only will this alter basic demographic information in both rural and urban areas of the state, but it may also adversely affect longitudinal studies about health, safety, and welfare, they wrote.
Right. Because if you're starting to run these tests as to how many people die of this in this area, all those numbers are going to be distorted. Go ahead.
There is bias in the demonstration data that causes areas with small populations to get larger while areas with larger populations get smaller, stated demographer Mark Mormon said in a letter to Dillingham. The data also deviated when it came to racial demographics, he said. Along with miscounts, these errors could also completely misrepresent entire communities. A rural declining, old, predominant white community, for example, may appear instead growing, younger, and more diverse, Gunter wrote.
Okay, and we know from all of the projections that that's not true. But they're going to play with the census to make it say whatever they want it to say. So we have to question information that we get that's delivered unto us. Go ahead.
As a result, redistricting data will be inaccurate and majority-minority districts could lose their status.
And what happens in these areas? Some schools get money based on these things, okay? So if you change that data and rearrange that, then that affects even the learning of those children. Because remember now, the biggest gain is going to be with the children anyway. So that means that's where the biggest attack has to be. So you got to keep redistricting, keep pushing these people in different schools, keep changing the city lines constantly. Go ahead.
She warned. The data will also result in potential loss of funding for communities, which would affect housing, transportation, emergency management, and numerous other services. Quinn Kai, the director of the Weldon Cooper Center's Demographics Research Group, warned in an opt at the Richmond Times-Dispatch that while the move is well-intended, the Bureau believes data distortion prevents reconstruction of individual records including age, gender, race, and home ownership, even though the basic information already is easily accessible through the internet.
Right. They say they're protecting our data, but you can get on Google and find it. That's what this just said. I got to translate. They say that they have a privacy algorithm, differential privacy algorithm that's going to do all of these things. But you can get on Google and find it. So then that algorithm serves no purpose other than allow them to play with the numbers and allocate money wherever they want to send it. These are things that happen before we ever see a racist cop stand in front of us. So the bounds for what's happening has already been set up. It has already been put into place. By the time you get pulled over and they say, let me see your license, all of this has already been put into play. Go ahead.
The consequences are disastrous, she said.
Next graphic.
We no longer will have accurate information about our communities. The data distortion might misrepresent a city's population size by 25% or more, or in the case of an age group by more than 100%, she wrote. As a result, data necessary for things like enforcing voting rights.
Right. You see all of these people now that are protesting, and here come our people. You know, a few of the wealthy, they're saying, don't go out in the street, vote. This is how you're going to make your voice heard. You're going to vote and you're going to make a change. Now, if they said the census said that only 5,000 people lived in your area, but there was really 15,000, that means they had already planned on throwing 10,000 of y'all votes away. Whoosh. 10,000 of them already in the trash. Because the census said don't put 5,000 of y'all live there. But 15,000 of y'all got in line. And you had your little peach thing on, you know what I'm saying? I voted today. How about you? And we can't wait to show people, look at this. I voted. Right. Did you stay there long enough to see them throw it in the trash? Because if the census say ain't but 5,000 people there, guess how many votes that they gonna only count from that area? 5,000. Because it said you ain't have a 5,000. So them other 10,000 going in the trash automatically. That allows them to play the game. The game is already rigged before you start playing it. Go ahead.
As a result, data necessary for things like enforcing voting rights, funding schools, planning for emergencies, tracking opioid addiction, and city planning will be inaccurate and meaningless.
Meaningless. These are their people arguing about their policies. This is not what I'm saying about their policies. This is what they are saying about the implementation of those policies. Because it's going to be very difficult to enforce voting rights when you try to prove that voting has been suppressed in an area, but they have already lied about how many people are there. So how do you prove that the voting was suppressed when the numbers of the community were already incorrect 10 years ago? Go ahead.
While data on white populations was largely accurate, minority populations had error percentage rates of more than 25%.
Say it ain't so. Imagine that. Imagine that. The data on the white populations was largely accurate, but percentages of so-called minority areas had more than 25% error. This is their system. These are the suits and ties. Okay? This is the system that they're saying trust in. Go vote, and then you can change this. How long we been voting? How long we been voting? Go ahead.
And even more when looking only at black populations. Inaccuracy in the decennial census will flow through 10 full years of data.
Right. So the decisions that are made in the census flows for 10 full years. Go ahead.
Hollowell and Rector warned Dillingham. The current implementation of differential privacy creates a group of regions and people, predominantly rural and already marginalized, that are left behind. They will continue to be left behind for the remainder of the decade unless action is taken to improve the algorithm. Without resolution, it will be impossible to measure the magnitude of these errors, resulting in further challenges for these places and communities.
All right, let's go to Joel chapter 3. See, there's one thing we can get, and we can talk all of these kind of obscure thoughts kind of thing, where we just mention some things, but then there's actual policies that have been put in place that are set to make certain things happen. And until those policies are brought to the table and dealt with, that whole, hey, you know, let's hold hands and sing kumbaya. Let's get on, let's get the police to kneel with us. What that's supposed to me, if they kneel now I got a problem. Y'all just kneeled on a man's neck. I don't want to see you kneel no more. Well, let's kneel together. No, when Kaepernick was kneeling, y'all didn't want to kneel. Now you want to kneel now? So how I know you're kneeling ain't telling other people that you okay with kneeling on somebody's neck. I don't know what that kneel mean now. I don't want no part of that. We can't kneel together. Now you kneel over there, and I'll kneel over here. Joel chapter 3, and let's start that at verse 1.
For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Yehuda and Jerusalem.
Now understand, this is the restoration of the children of Israel. You need to understand that these things go hand in hand. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity, that means cause the captivity of Yehuda and Jerusalem to go away. Go ahead.
I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
If you have a study Bible, it says the judgment of the Gentile nations after Armageddon. Judgment of the Gentile nations. I'm sorry, people say, I didn't write this Bible. So if Gentiles wanted to change this, this would have been a perfect time for them to take out judgment of the Gentile nations. And people, and you know, there's always some brother come up with, yeah, brother, see, King James wrote that Bible. See? And from what I heard, King James was funny. Well, this would have been a perfect time for Funny Man to take out judgment against the Gentiles. Right. Read, man.
I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel.
My heritage, my people Israel. Go ahead.
Whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land.
They have scattered. So it automatically accuses, Joel automatically accuses the Gentiles of spreading Israel out. When we listen to these people who claim that they're Jews, you have something to say, we've always been here. We've been in this land for thousands of years. Well, according to the prophecy, that may be true. It just means that you're not Israel. You may have been there for thousands of years. That part could actually be true. It just means you're not us. You're not the people of this book. Go ahead.
You know, brother, when we was reading this information earlier and it was talking about the percentages of the Hispanics that's going to rise up and populate, their population is going to grow. And then you saw the Asian population. And what we don't realize is our percentage only really increased by 1%.
Mm-hmm.
But as they rise above us, they're going to start showing us the same type of hatred and treatment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
When you look directly into their countries, they're treating us that way in their countries already.
But you know what? Nobody, will do this but us. We insert everybody into our movement. And you keep hearing all of these people get up and protest, and then they say, it's protest against what they do to the black and the brown man. Who the hell seen a brown man shot down? I ain't seen them shoot down Hector Elizondo yet. So what are they talking about? But this us. We just grab other people and put them into our struggle. Next thing you know, now even gay pride is a part of our movement. What the hell that got to do with us? This person can decide at every point he don't want to be gay no more. People say, no, you're born that way. No, the hell, you made a decision. And at any point, you can make another decision. Or you can pretend that that's not you. You know how many people I done seen that look one way and then the daddy walked in the room and they got manly? Well, they pretend like they wasn't gay. Imagine me pretending like I'm not black. Go ahead, take a minute. I'll give you a second. How well you think that's going to work out for me? I mean, if I give you the best grammar, I'll give you the most educated thesis, I'm still gonna look like this. I don't get to pretend to be something else. So how you gonna be a part of my movement when you can change what decision you made? I can never change this. You don't get to be a part of this movement. You need to have your own. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink.
And we know that these things didn't happen to anybody else but us. Go ahead.
Yea, and what have you to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Yehuda and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians.
The children also of Yehuda and the children of Jerusalem have you sold unto the Grecians. I keep trying to find where a Jewish person was sold to white people. And I got, man, my grandmama's house was full of them Encyclopedia Britannicas. I couldn't find it no place. I've been searching the internet. If somebody find it, tell me. Because I ain't found it. I can find where we were sold unto the Gentiles. Go ahead.
That you might remove them far from their borders.
And remove far from the border. So once again, we cast out that other lie that Israel has been in the land for all this time. According to what this says, Israel is far from their border. Go ahead.
Behold, I will raise them up out of the place whither you have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head.
Yahweh said he's going to go and get the children of Israel. This is why the daughter of Babylon will be destroyed. See, these things are synonymous with one another. The return of the children of Israel and the beginning of the end of Gentile rule. Go ahead.
And I'll sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Yehudah, and they shall sell them to the Sabaeans, to a people far off, for Yahweh hath spoken it. Proclaim you this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves, and come, all you heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause your mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. Let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put you in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining.
This is how we know that these things have not happened yet. So when people try to tell you, oh, you reading out of the Old Testament, you reading this old stuff. Okay, let's go back and find where anybody can document where the sun and the moon has stopped operating the way that it's supposed to operate. This is how we know these things have not taken place. This is why this is something that we need to know. When they get ready to try to discredit you because, oh, that's written in the Old Testament. You're reading that old bondage. These things have not taken place yet. Keep reading.
Yahweh also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But Yahweh will be the hope of his people, and the strength of the children of Israel. So shall you know that I am Yahweh your Elohim, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her anymore.
And that's something that our people need to understand. Then shall Jerusalem be holy. People keep talking about, I'm going to make a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. It ain't holy no more. He said, then shall it be holy when I take care of this business. So you shall know I am Yahweh your Elohim, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her anymore. Them strangers in there. It ain't holy. And they kill, murder. The same thing that's happening in America with us is happening in Israel with the Palestinians. And we spend all our money talking about we're going to go to the Holy Land. Should have saved that money and went to Disney World. Read, man.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drop down the new wine, and the hills shall flow with milk, and all the rivers of Yehudah shall flow with waters. And a fountain shall come forth out of the house of Yahweh, and shall water the valley of Shittim. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness, for the violence against the children of Yehudah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. But Yehudah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for Yahweh dwells in Zion.
All right. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 11. Isaiah chapter 11. and we're going to read verses 11 and 12. Isaiah 11 and 11.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the Adonai shall set his hand again the second time.
The second time. Okay? This is the key. So, see, all of this is connected to why America must be destroyed. Because Yahweh is then setting this thing, and it shall come to pass that in that day Yahweh will set his hand again the second time. So when people try to tell you, yeah, we came out of Egypt, that was us. He's talking about a second Exodus that's not like any of the other lands where they were just captive here or captive there. No, this one is a major dispersion, and he's going to get them, but not just from one place. Go ahead.
To recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and
So
from Egypt.
This is Middle Eastern area and Egypt. Go ahead.
And from Pathros, and from Cush,
Ethiopia.
and from Elam, and from Shinar.
Shinar is Babylon. Shinar is Babel. Go ahead.
And from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea.
Right. And half you Jamaicans is already here. Go ahead.
And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth.
Right. From the four corners of the earth. So when somebody tell you that Israel has already been in that place, we know how Israel got spread to the four corners of the earth. We know how that happened. Okay? So this is going to be the catalyst. This is the spark that's going to cause the judgment on the Gentile nations. And who has the majority of those people? Right along America and South America. But who's the strongest? America. So she got to get dealt with. Then everybody else will freely give theirs up. See, the rest of the world not going to be motivated to give up their captive children of Israel. But once they see the big bad bully get dealt with, oh, they're going to be like, here, we just found somebody. We don't know. We just found 400,000 Israelites. Oh, we didn't know. We ain't need, my bad. We ain't need nobody need tell us. Here, come get these. Sorry, Yahweh. Our bad. Right. All of a sudden, people remember who you are. See? Let's go to the next graphic, graphic number 12.
The lie about the size of the African continent.
Now, there should be a graphic on there where this is a part. This is why I say the racism is systemic, because this is a system by which we were taught this growing up. They gave us a globe, and the globe showed Africa barely bigger than anything else. All right. So they shrunk the size of Africa to not to make the other things be demeaning, which sounds just like the census numbers. Go ahead.
The lie about the size of the African continent on a typical world map. Canada is a vast nation, home to 6 time zones. Its endless plains spread from ocean to ocean, dominating great swaths of the northern half of the globe. But in reality, 3 Canadas would comfortably fit inside Africa. Our world map is widely misleading. It's all down to European cartographer Gert de Cremer, better known as Mercator, and his 16th century map projection, a common template for world maps today, which distorts the size of countries.
Which distorts the size of countries for their own gain. So how many people have looked at a globe and we see Africa not understanding that it is 3 times the size of what they're showing on that map? There's a whole list of countries. Look at that list. All of those countries will fit inside Africa. They've been playing this game, what they said, since 16th century. So this this game has been going on for a long time. So us thinking that we're going to have some little kneel down minute with the police and change this, or we going to make a few votes and change this, you really don't recognize the problem of which you're dealing. Let's go to our next graphic.
All men are created equal was never intended for black men.
Mm-hmm.
What was the 3/5 compromise of 1787?
1787, the 3/5 compromise. Let's define that. Go ahead.
The 3/5 compromise, aka the 3/5 compromise, resolved the controversial issue of apportionment that was raised at the Constitutional Convention, which was a meeting of states whose delegates were formulating plans for the national government. One of the major disputes was over the issue of apportionment, which related to the method of distributing and allotting the seats in the House of Representatives based on population.
Right. In other words, the North was upset because if you count those slaves, then they're going to get more delegates based on their slave population. That's going to help them. So we got to figure out a way to even this out because they have slaves and we don't have any just yet. Go ahead.
Delegates James Wilson and Roger Sherman proposed the 3/5 compromise that counted every 5 slaves as 3 individuals in terms of the apportionment of representation and taxes.
Right. And when you deal with the situation of what causes people to fight, it's taxation without representation. So do understand what's written there. This is why you'll see people holding signs that say 3/5 of a man, because they said that the slave was counted 3/5. Go to the next graphic.
The Dred Scott decision of the courts just prior to the Civil War had decreed that enslaved Africans were private property and therefore could not be granted citizenship. The Civil War should have brought an end to the 3/5 clause, since the outcome of the war should have resulted in all men being free and thus African Americans being counted as one person instead of just 3/5 of a person. But this did not happen.
So when they play with the numbers, are they then playing with the numbers so they can get the actual 3/5 without telling you that's what they're doing? Go ahead.
The southern states aggressively put rules and barriers into place called the Black Codes and disenfranchised black voters immediately after the Civil War. Black codes were restrictive laws designed to limit the freedom of African Americans and ensure their availability as a cheap labor force after slavery was abolished in the Civil War.
So this was to keep them just above slaves. Free, but not really. Go ahead.
Though the Union victory had given some 4 million slaves their freedom, the question of freed blacks' status in the post-war South and America was still very much unresolved. Under black codes, many states required blacks to sign yearly labor contracts. If they refused, they risked being arrested, fined, and forced into unpaid labor.
So either sign the contract or you forced into unpaid labor. Now, the contract may not be an agreeable contract. This contract sucks. Or either sign it or we're going to make you work for free. Yeah, but this is just a penny. So that's like, you know, that's like 1 over free. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Simultaneously, Lincoln's successor, President Andrew Johnson, presided over the beginning of the Reconstruction era.
And we had graphic number 16. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
With leniency, granting slaveholders amnesty and pardoning many, even returning much power and property, except for slaves, to former slave owners. Support for Reconstruction policies waned after the early 1870s, undermined by the violence of white supremacist organizations such as the Ku Klux Klan.
Right. And their biggest issue, or the biggest problem that they did not stop, was the Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacist groups joining that police force and basically making it the same thing. Next graphic.
By 1877, when the last federal soldiers left the South and Reconstruction drew to a close, blacks had seen little improvement in their economic and social status, and the vigorous efforts of white supremacist forces throughout the region had undone the political gains they had made. Discrimination would continue in America with the rise of Jim Crow laws, which would inspire the civil rights movement led by Martin Luther King Jr.
All right, let's go to the next graphic.
Philando Castile's murder was acquitted on 6/16/2017, even though he was murdered on video.
So now everybody is marching. They say we want charges for the police officer. They upgraded the charges. Everybody's cheering. Now remember, this man was charged for murder. Okay? The murder was on video. Most of the events after were. He was on charges, everything that they're asking for now. Go ahead.
After 5 days and more than 25 hours of deliberation, a jury decided that the state did not meet its burden for a conviction.
Even though all of this is on video and filmed, broadcast on Facebook Live, he asked the man to go for his license and then shot him when he moved. Go ahead.
Yeah,
So you little black boys need to be paying attention to this. Because it's y'all that they coming after. This ain't the time to take a nap. This ain't just something I'm talking to your daddies about. They coming for y'all. Pay attention. Go ahead.
Yanez would have faced up to 10 years under Minnesota law if he had been convicted. Yanez had been charged with manslaughter and reckless discharge of a firearm for fatally shooting Castile. 32 in his car while Castile's girlfriend and her 4-year-old daughter were sitting in the vehicle just outside St. Paul, Minnesota.
Just outside St. Paul, Minnesota, you have the man in the car with his girlfriend and a child, and an officer shot him in front of both of those. Go ahead.
The jury that determined Yanez's fate consisted of 7 men and 5 women. 2 jurors were black and the rest were white.
Right. This is the game that's being played. Now watch this game. That they have brought charges against this police officer, right? They're going to say too much publicity. They already made up the thing. They're going to then move that to another city, which is even whiter than the city here. And they're going to have one black person probably on the jury, and he going to be black. Not really. You know what I'm saying? We talking real Oreo, you know. And the Oreo going to agree with whatever they say. And he walking. Same thing already happened. Go ahead.
Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, who was a key witness for the prosecution, said she was incredibly disappointed with the jury's decision. It is a sad state of affairs when this type of criminal conduct is condoned simply because Yanez is a policeman, she said in a statement. God help America, she said.
Right. Now, he going to do something to America. He going to do something. But it's going to be a different kind of help. Let's go to Judges chapter 19. Oh, he going to help her. He is about to help her. He is on his way to help her. See, you got to first understand. See, we keep thinking that she can be helped. See, there comes a point in everybody's life when they realize that they are dealing with a situation that is not fixable. Man, I remember I had this Volkswagen Jetta. Loved that car. Man, I love that car. I take that car. I mean, it was a workhorse. Decided to let a friend drive it. A New York Jamaican. Now, I didn't know that was 2 conflicting things. A New York Jamaican. See, first of all, Jamaica ain't got no roads, and New York got too many people on the road. So I let this New York Jamaican drive my car. Oh my God, what he did to my car. I had to eventually realize that that car was not fixable. I had changed everything on this car. I had never seen anybody drive like this individual could drive. I mean, he'd make 8 turns to get around one car. I was like, why do you do that? All we had to do is just sit right here. I mean, he drove the hell out of that car. After I had done spent so much money in trying to fix that car, I took that car over my stepdad's house, and I just handed him the key. He said, what you doing? I said, do whatever the hell you got to do with it. I don't want to see this no more. I have spent the last dollar that I'm going to spend. This thing is unfixable. So to this day, when anybody asks me, can they drive my car? I got 2 questions. Are you from New York? And are you a Jamaican? Because I got cousins from New York and they drive, boy. You ain't never seen this kind of driving because there's so much traffic. The way that they drive is aggressive. And I'm just like, good God almighty, brother, I ain't never seen nobody. I'm riding with my cousin in New York and he hit the curb and my head all up against the glass. And he like, that's normal. I was like, that's normal. I got out, I kissed the girl. They're like, never mind, I'm going to get somebody else to take me back. I don't even know where I'm at, but I'm like, I'm not riding with him. I need a helmet to ride with him. So yeah, there's sometimes you have to realize when a situation is not fixable. And we just don't understand all the intricacies of the system. We still trying to just look at it from man to man. But there's so many we won't even be able to discuss in this sitting. Okay? Go ahead, bro.
You know, part of the problem is also our people don't understand charged and convicted.
Right.
Everybody even, they charged with such and such. So what y'all happy for? That
Right.
don't mean nothing.
Right.
Has he been convicted of that?
Exactly. And then if he's convicted, then you look at where they gonna send him. Do they send him to one of them country club jails where they play golf all day? You know, they got those kind of jails. They don't normally let us go to them. But they have those kind of jails where they playing golf and video games. They got the new PlayStation before you get it. Go ahead.
Judges chapter 19 and verse 1. And it came to pass in those days, when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of Mount Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Yehudah. And his concubine played the whore against him, and went away from him unto her father's house to Bethlehem, Yehudah, and was there 4 whole months. And her husband arose and went after her, to speak friendly unto her, and to bring her again, having his servant with him, and a couple of asses. And she brought him into her father's house, and when the father of the damsel saw him, he rejoiced to meet him. And his father-in-law, the damsel's father, retained him, and he abode with him 3 days. So they did eat and drink and lodged there. And it came to pass on the 4th day, when they arose early in the morning, that he rose up to depart, and the damsel's father said unto his son-in-law, comfort your heart with a morsel of bread, and afterward go your way. And they sat down, and did eat and drink, both of them together. For the damsel's father had said unto the man, be content, I pray you, and tarry all night, and let your heart be merry. And when the man rose up to depart, his father-in-law urged him. Therefore he lodged there again.
Right. So he keeps holding him, and eventually, this is also a lesson when it comes down to, see, a lot of these things are lessons from within lessons. Because as he's allowing this, he pushes off at a bad time because of the constant agitation by the father to keep staying. So he doesn't really leave like he's supposed to. Go ahead.
And he arose early in the morning on the 5th day to depart. And the damsel's father said, comfort your heart, I pray you. And they tarried on till afternoon. And they did eat, both of them.
Now, he arose early in the morning to depart. Now, this is on the 5th day. Go ahead.
And when the man rose up to depart, he and his concubine and his servant, his father-in-law, the damsel's father, said unto him, behold, now the day draws toward evening. I pray you tarry all night. Behold, the day grows to an end. Lodge here, that your heart may be merry, and tomorrow get you early on your way, that you may go home.
But he already did this 5 days. Go ahead.
But the man would not tarry that night, but he rose up and departed, and came over against Jebus.
Now, the first part of this issue is he has allowed this man to detain him for 5 days. He rose up early in the mornings because, hey, when we going on the trip, what we do? We begin early in the morning or in the wee hours of the morning. We'll tell you in a minute, I need to be on I-10 by 10. Time to go. Anybody sleepy, we just throw them in the car. They'll wake up. They'll wake up. They wake up on the highway. What it do? How I get in the car? Ain't nobody got time for you. We got somewhere to go. But now I just woke up. I got to use the bathroom. It's a cup right there. Keep on. Let's go. Ain't got time to be playing with you. So now it's almost nighttime, and this is when he starts the trip. That's not what he wanted to do. So allowing somebody to keep detaining him has messed up his trip. Go ahead.
Which is Jerusalem. And there were with him 2 asses saddled. His concubine also was with him. And when they were by Jebus, the day was far spent. And the servant said unto his master, Come, I pray you, and let us turn into this city of the Jebusites, and lodge in it. And his master said unto him, We will not turn aside hither into the city of a stranger, that is not of the children of Israel. We will pass over to Gibeah. And he said unto his servant, Come, and let us draw near to one of these places to lodge all night, in Gibeah, or in Ramah. And they passed on and went their way, and the sun went down upon them when they were by Gibeah, which belongeth to Benjamin.
Right. So then you think that you're in a better place because now you in Gibeah, which belongs to one of the tribes of Israel, to the tribe of Benjamin. Go ahead.
And they turned aside thither to go in and to lodge in Gibeah. And when he went in, he sat him down in a street of the city, for there was no man that took them into his house to lodging. And behold, there came an old man from his work out of the field at evening, which was also of Mount Ephraim, and he sojourned in Gibeah. But the men of the place were Benjamites. And when he had lifted up his eyes, he saw a wayfaring man in the street of the city. And the old man said, Whither goeth you? And whence cometh you? And he said unto him, We are passing through Bethlehem Yehudah, toward the side of Mount Ephraim. From thence am I. And I went to Bethlehem Yehudah. But I am now going to the house of Yahweh, and there's no man that receives me to house. Yet there's both straw and provender for our asses, and there's bread and wine also for me, and for your handmaid, and for the young man which is with your servants. There's no want of anything. And the old man said, Peace be with you. Howsoever, let all your wants lie upon me, only lodge not in the street. So he brought them into his house, and gave provender unto the asses, and they washed their feet, and did eat and drink. Now as they were making their hearts merry, behold, the men of the city, certain sons of Belial, beset the house round about, and beat at the door, and spake to the master of the house, the old man, saying, Bring forth the man that came into the house, or came into your house, pardon me, that we may know him. And the man, the master of the house, went out unto them, and said unto them, No, my brethren, no, I pray you, do not so wickedly, seeing that this man is come into mine house. Do not this folly.
Now understand, this is not exactly where he wanted to go. All right. He ends up here because he's starting this trip late, period. Go ahead.
Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden, and his concubine. Them will I bring out now, and humble you them, and do with them what seems good unto you. But unto this man, do not so vile a thing.
Now, this man said, Behold, here is my daughter, a virgin. Because they coming to deal with the man. They said they want him. They said, oh man, he look good. Where he from? So this is already some strange things. And then this man don't even know him and offers his daughter and the man's concubine. Go ahead.
But the man would not hearken to him. So the man took his concubine and brought her forth unto them. And they knew her, and abused her all the night until the morning. And when the day began to spring, they let her go. Then came the woman into the dawning of the day and fell down at the door of the man's house where her master was, till it was light. And her master rose up in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go his way. And behold, the woman, his concubine, was fallen down at the door of the house, and her hands were upon the threshold.
So they abused her until they killed her. So now we have an evil deed that was done. But interestingly enough, the man offered his daughter, but the daughter didn't go. It ended up that the only person that they took was the concubine, who had left her husband to play the whore. So you have to look at the irony in even dealing with that. Now go to Judges chapter 20, and let's start that at verse 11. And we're going to read that through 28.
So all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man.
So now he has told the children of Israel about this evil that has happened. And now Israel is gathering together to go and deal with the evil that was done by these men. Go ahead.
And the tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribes of Benjamin, saying, What wickedness is this that is done among you? Now therefore deliver us the men, the children of Belial, which are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death.
That we may put them to death. Go ahead.
And put away evil from Israel.
Because putting them to death will put away the evil from Israel. Now I want you to pay attention, because what has happened in the American narrative is you don't come through and damage a city because one person has done some evil. But I want you to pay attention. Evil is done. All they have to do is give up the people who did the evil. America protects the evil cops, but then get angry when destruction happens to their city for not giving up the evil cop. So you need to know how this biblical story connects to what is being done in America. Go ahead.
But the children of Benjamin would not hearken to the voice of their brethren, the children of Israel. But the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities unto Gibeah.
This would be your riot police. They said, we're not giving up the men, so now we bringing out the riot police in full gear to come against you. Go ahead.
To go out to battle against the children of Israel.
To go out and battle against the children. Wasn't them teenagers, they was out there fighting? Right. You got grown men police force all muscled up with gear to go and fight children. I just watched a video where they pushed a 75-year-old man down and his head hit the ground, sound like a watermelon dropping. No remorse. What kind of threat was the 75-year-old man? You fear for your life from a 75-year-old man? All you can fear is your dentures. He gonna take some Effident or something. What you... Read, man.
And the children of Benjamin were numbered at that time out of the cities 26,000 men that drew sword, beside the inhabitants of Gibeah, which were numbered 700 chosen men. Among all this people there were 700 chosen men left-handed. Everyone could sling stones at an hair's breadth and not miss.
Right. So now you got valiant soldiers who are now fighting for the evil that somebody else has done. Exactly what happens with the police force. For them to protect one group of people, the rest of the people will go to war. Go ahead.
And the men of Israel, beside Benjamin, were numbered 400,000 men that drew sword. All of these were men of war. And the children of Israel arose and went up to the house of Elohim and asked counsel of Elohim and said, Which of us shall go up first to the battle against the children of Benjamin?
All right. First of all, I want you to pay attention to how you approach the God of Israel. And the men of Israel beside Benjamin were numbered 400,000 men that drew sword. All these were men of war. Verse 18. And the children of Israel arose, went up to the house of Elohim, and they asked counsel of Elohim. But listen to what they said. Which of us shall go up first? All right, now we're going to figure out the manner of this question later. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said, Yehuda shall go up first.
Right. He asked, you asked the question, which shall go up first? They didn't say, shall I go? Go ahead.
And the children of Israel rose up in the morning and encamped against Gibeah. And the men of Israel went out to the battle against Benjamin.
Now, stop. Why should Yehuda be the first? Because that's where the kings come from. So he answered the question correctly. You need to be very careful what you ask your Elohim and how you ask it. Who should go up first? Well, Yehuda, of course. They're the kings. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And the men of Israel put themselves in array to fight against them at Gibeah. And the children of Benjamin came forth out of Gibeah and destroyed down to the ground of the Israelites that day 22,000 men. And the people, the men of Israel, encouraged themselves and set their battle again in array in the place where they put themselves in array the first day.
All right, so 22,000 gone. Read.
And the children of Israel went up and wept before Yahweh until even, and asked counsel of Yahweh, saying, shall I go up again to
Shall I go? Now we got a question. Now we got a question. Shall I go up? See, shall should have been the first question. But now it's the second question. Shall I go up again? Go ahead.
Shall I go up again to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother? And Yahweh said, go up against them. And the children of Israel came there against the children of Benjamin the second day. And Benjamin went forth against them out of Gibeah the second day, and destroyed down to the ground of the children of Israel again 18,000 men. All these drew the sword.
All right, so that's 22 plus 18,000. Go ahead.
Then all the children of Israel and all the people went up and came unto the house of Elohim and wept and sat there before Yahweh and fasted that day until even and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before Yahweh.
Now you approach Yahweh right. See, our problem is why Yahweh ain't hearing us? Because we ain't approached him correctly yet. Shall I go? Who's going to go up first? But then when we suffer enough, see, we got 22,000 plus 18,000. Now, here we come. We crying. We fasting. And we offering an acceptable offering unto our Elohim. Now we came to the king the right way. Pay attention. Read.
And the children of Israel inquired of Yahweh, for the ark of the covenant of Elohim was there in those days. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, stood before it in those days, saying, shall I yet again go out to the battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother, or shall I cease? And Yahweh said, go up, for tomorrow I will deliver them into your hand.
Now Yahweh said a whole lot more that time. See? He said a whole lot more that time. Each time, yeah. All right, yeah, Yehuda. This time, go up. Because I'm going to deliver them into your hand. Now, see, I would have been waiting for that the first time. Yahweh, don't you need to say something else? Go up, sock. No, I need something else behind go up, sock. Go up, sock, you shall prevail. Go ahead, I'll listen again. I'll be waiting here. Thank you. You got to know what you're listening for. You got to know what you're listening for. It's got to be something else. Jump to verse 35.
And Yahweh smote Benjamin before Israel, and the children of Israel destroyed of the Benjamites that day 25,100 men.
So the death, 22,000, 18,000, and 25,000, all because they did not want to hand over the rapists. But when America suffers loss by protecting the dirty cop, they say it's wrong that her cities start burning. But I'm going to show you exactly what happened in this situation with Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 36. So the children of Benjamin saw that they were smitten, for the men of Israel gave place to the Benjamites, because they trusted unto the liers in wait, which they had set beside Gibeah. And the liers in wait hasted and rushed upon Gibeah. And the liers in wait drew themselves along and smote all the city with the edge of the sword. Now there was an appointed sign between the men of Israel and the liers in wait, that they should make a great flame with smoke rise up out of the city. And when the men of Israel retired in the battle, Benjamin began to smite and to kill of the men of Israel about 30 persons. For they said, surely they are smitten down before us, as in the first battle. But when the flame began to arise up out of the city with a pillar of smoke, the Benjamites looked behind them, and behold, the flame of the city ascended up to heaven.
Okay, so now, because they would not give up the evildoers, now their city is burning. Does that sound familiar? They said, because somebody has done wrong, that's no reason to come and burn Target. There's good quality merchandise in there. Right? But it's going to smell smoky. Go ahead, bro.
And when the men of Israel turned again, the men of Benjamin were amazed, for they saw that evil was come upon them. Therefore they turned their backs before the men of Israel onto the way of the wilderness. But the battle overtook them, and them which came out of the cities they destroyed in the midst of them. Thus they enclosed the Benjamites round about and chased them, and trod them down with ease over against Gibeah toward the sun rising. And there fell of Benjamin 18,000 men. All these were men of valor. And they turned and fled toward the wilderness onto the rock of Ramon. And they gleaned of them in the highways 5,000 men, and pursued hard after them unto Gidom, and slew 2,000 men of them. So that all which fell that day of Benjamin were 25,000 men that drew the sword. All these were men of valor. But 600 men turned and fled to the wilderness onto the rock Ramon, and abode in the rock Ramon 4 months.
So they're about to almost kill off the entire tribe of Benjamin because they protected some evil rapists. Go ahead.
And the men of Israel turned again upon the children of Benjamin, and smote them with the edge of the sword, as well the men of every city, as the beasts, and all that came to hand. Also they set on fire all the cities that they came to.
I'm sorry, read that last thing again.
Also they set on fire all the cities that they came to.
Right. So because they wouldn't give up the evil men, their cities burned. So you need to know that that's even written in this Bible. Because people want to tell you that it is some unjust thing, that because this one thing was done, that the city burned. When something evil happens in the city, the entire city is defiled anyway. And the only way to undefile it is for you to shed the blood of those blood shedders. So now the city got to take on what you did not allow to happen as far as righteous judgment. You need to know that that's in this book. Let's go to graphic number 21 and read the things that you got there, bro.
What is a police officer? Slave patrols. Policing and oppression have a long history.
And as you can see, this is a Bloomberg article. And all of these articles we have, well, I don't know if they in each graphic, but we have all of our sources of where these articles come from here. All right. So go ahead, bro.
The debate on racism and law enforcement follows a clear line back to the antebellum South. Yet hard though it might be to believe, most historians nowadays accept that among the direct precursors to the modern police force were the slave-catching patrols of the Old South.
Right. So understand what a police officer is. The police officer comes from the slave patrols of the slave South. They did not really have police officers until this time. Go ahead.
In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, most northern communities used a night watch system adopted from England to keep order. The night watchman rarely made a circuit of the town, but stayed at his post, prepared to be summoned when a crime occurred. Where sheriffs existed, they were. in the 18th century, essentially tax collectors.
Next graphic.
The slave patrols, by contrast, did what the name suggests. They patrolled, although their organization varied from place to place. In most of the South, the members of the patrol were recruited from and had special responsibility for a particular small geographic area known as a beat.
What they said the cops worked?
Beat.
He worked the beat, right? The cop worked the beat. What do you think they got? This slave patrol. They were created for us. Their whole criminal justice system was created to put slavery back in effect through a organized system. That's what they mean when they say it's systemic. Go ahead.
Thus the origin of our contemporary term. The slave patrols, the dreaded patrollers, are remembered best for tracking down runaways and fretting out potential uprisings, but many scholars think they had a more important day-to-day role. Those held in bondage in the South were seen as the greatest potential source of crime, including theft, assault, and sabotage of agricultural equipment. There was a steady traffic in pilferage in valuables being sold to free black railroad workers who would carry them north and resell them. By the reckoning of the slavocracy, the anti-crime patrols were being sent exactly where they were needed. Small surprise, then, that free white citizens were required to join the patrols if called. Despite legal codes...
Hold on. Small surprise that the free white citizens were required to join the patrols if called, i.e. today's white citizens arrest. A brother just got killed and they said, we're making the citizens arrest. This slave patrol stuff. They were required to join the slave patrol and go and catch. This is why you get that sense of sometimes when you out that sometimes Caucasians want to just police you and doing stuff. Why you doing that? You ever seen somebody drive, they get in the emergency lane and they getting off of getting out of traffic, and I've watched a Gentile pull over into the emergency lane just to block somebody. What the hell gave you the right to police the emergency lane? But that was automatically in their makeup because they were required to go and slow down those slaves so they could get caught. This is a system that has been, this is what's throwing the younger white generation because they don't know all of this. They didn't have anything to do with this. So this is surprising a lot of them. This is throwing them off. Go ahead.
You know, even when you watch the video with Aubrey, that's exactly what you envisioned, the slave patrol.
Oh, man.
Going on the back of the truck.
He got hit with the truck. They blocked him off with the truck. He's running with the truck and they block him off. The one guy who was acting like he was innocent and they straight locked him up too. Talking about he was just filming it. He was a part of it. They all hunting him down. He's trying to get away. They wouldn't let him. It is definitely a slave patrol where they feel like they have the right to arrest somebody. Ain't got nary badge. But they gonna make a citizen's arrest. Because he was looking at the wood and the sheetrock. I'm sorry? Did he take any of it? Because it would have been hard to fit in those jogging pants. Go ahead, bro.
Despite legal codes purporting to control them, the patrollers were feared and reviled for their cruelty.
Oh, where does that sound familiar? Go ahead.
A freedman named Lewis Garrard Clark wrote that the patrols were the tooth and tongue of serpents, the fool's cap of baboons, the scum of stagnant pools, the meanest and lowest and worst of all creation.
Right. And you just look at the recent incidents, within the riots, the police come out and actually now we got more cases against police when they so-called was supposed to be stopping the riots. When you knock down a 75-year-old man, you're going to tase some college students. Now, this is my problem with some of us. We don't dress for the occasion. Now I looked at that was a pretty little girl. But she out there on some little short shorts and some flip-flops. Did you know where you was going, boo-boo? I don't think y'all understand. There's certain things that when you going somewhere, you need to act like you going somewhere. If we going somewhere where something might go down, you gonna see me lace up my boots, my belt on tight. Cause see, I ain't got time to be holding up my pants. See, these little kids here, they holding down their pants, wonder why they can't get away. No, you need to act like you're going somewhere. Act like you may have to run at the drop of a dime. See, that comes from somebody who done suffered trying to be cute before. See, that's y'all problem, y'all. Some of y'all ain't suffered yet. See, when I'm at my first day at alternative school, I had a cute little outfit on. Oh my God, it was awesome. Had this little Hawks outfit, little jumpsuit. It was nice. But it had this nice little thing that zipped all the way up to the collar. Oh man, it was nice. Until I got to fighting. And somehow that jacket got pulled over my head. And it got caught right there. I couldn't pull it off. So I'm stuck with my hands like this. By the time I got my arms back, I looked like the Elephant Man. From that point on, when war happens, dress for war. That took care of that. Because I wasn't cute for a long time. That took care of that. Go ahead, brother.
And yet, for all their terrors, the slave patrols provided the template for the policing in its contemporary sense. Richmond, Virginia created a full-time police force only after Gabriel Processor led a slave uprising in 1800. Other cities followed suit.
Pay attention. Richmond, Virginia created a full-time police force only after a slave uprising. So it is slave patrol is what the police is. Only after a slave uprising did you find a police force. This is what they were created to do. This is not a mistake. They are doing what they were told to do. Next graphic.
Imbued with the police power of the state, the patrols worked under limitations that built upon the English common law and are familiar even today. They required a warrant to search slave quarters, for example, unless they had the permission of the owner. Patrollers who used too much force against runaways could be prosecuted.
Now, this is the very thing that we are not able to do now. So when you look at why the police get away with the things that they get away with, they are immune from personal liability. Whenever you make somebody immune from personal liability, I used to wonder, is everybody just going after the money while they sue the police department? Why don't they just sue the actual policeman? You can't. They have protected them so that you can't sue. These are the things that need to change. Allow them to be held personally responsible for the things that they do, meaning that their income gets levied in the lawsuit. I guarantee you, those things will stop. But they are being protected, and then they don't even have to hire a lawyer when they have these cases come against them. The police force pay for. I'm sorry, you pay for that. I'm sorry, y'all taxpayers, right? You pay. That is taxation without representation. You are paying for the very defense of the person who kills your children. Read.
In the celebrated South Carolina case of State versus Boozer, 1850, an entire patrol was fined after attacking a group of slaves gathered for a quilting because the slaves all had tickets.
In other words, they had papers that said that they were supposed to be there. Go ahead.
From their masters allowing them to attend. The rules, of course, stem not from any
Solicitousness.
toward the enslaved, but from the felt need to protect the property of the masters.
In other words, they were not punished because they were cruel. They were punished because these people had papers to be there, and you just messed up master's money by damaging his slaves. So y'all got to pay for the damaging of his slaves. Now, they say, hey, you can do, they don't belong to us anymore. So we're not worried about who you damage. Go ahead.
In the decades after the Civil War, the South continued to worry about its restive black population. One consequence was the replacement of the patrollers by the Ku Klux Klan, the Knights of the White Camellia, and other groups of night riders, all described by their apologists as providing order in a lawless region.
Right. They believe that they are restoring order. Go ahead.
Another consequence of Southern fear was an early version of community policing. Southern cities began hiring black officers in the decades after the Civil War, in large part because they were thought to have expertise in how to deal with the formerly enslaved population.
In other words, they got the black cops to deal with the black people because they said they ought to be able to find and catch them better. That was their job. And to make sure they limited some things. Go ahead.
And because the existence of black police would keep the freedman calm. The black police, however, could not arrest whites.
Black police could not arrest white people. Now, let me show you how that is still happening today. Graphic number 24.
Ex-Minnesota officer who killed unarmed white woman becomes state's first cop convicted of murder.
First cop convicted of murder is a black cop who killed a white woman. They say it's very difficult to convict a policeman. Apparently not so if he's black. Now, you have to, some of these names are going to sound very interesting because what really is interesting is this is the same place that these other things are going down in right now. Go ahead.
A black former Minneapolis police officer who gunned down an unarmed white woman was convicted of third-degree murder Tuesday, April 30th, sparking debate over racial injustice involving police shootings. Muhammad Noor became the first police officer in Minnesota to be convicted of an on-duty murder.
As many unarmed black men have been killed, the first one they convict is a black man who shot a white woman. Go ahead.
Of the night in question.
But remember, the black cop couldn't arrest whites. Right. Go ahead.
Of the night in question, Noor testified that he and his partner, Matthew Harity, were in their squad car when they heard a loud noise in the alley.
Now this right here is really sad. Keep reading.
Damon later appeared and banged on Harity's window. Noor alleged that he heard Harity yell, "Oh Jesus," as he attempted to pull out his firearm.
So Noor is sitting on the passenger side. He on one side. The woman comes up to the other side, and it scares his partner. Now here goes slave mentality. He gonna protect the white boy. He heard the white boy scream, "Oh Jesus! Oh, he must be in trouble. I must come save him." Go ahead.
Noor went on to claim that he shot and killed Damon to stop the threat and save my partner's life.
This is so sad. Because his partner was scared. He's scared. Is we tired, boss? Is we thirsty, boss? Is we scared, boss? Go ahead.
Both officers had their body cameras turned off during the shooting, but turned them on after the fact.
Right. So he wasn't even scared for his life. This is what makes him so stupid. He was scared for the other officer's life because somebody made a noise at the window. Absolute fear. Just start busting shots. And shooting over the partner. He's shooting the partner here. He over here. He shoot past the partner. And shoot at the unarmed white woman running up to the police door. Now, lo and behold, a white person would be hurt running up to the police thinking that they're going to be safe by finding a policeman. Welcome to our life. Welcome. Next graphic.
You know what's interesting? If the body cameras was on, what did she run up and catch them doing?
Hey, man, it's a strange situation. But he didn't even claim that his life was in danger. He claimed at least the white boys know how to lie. No matter what, that's their story on everything. My life was in danger. Why? He tied his shoelaces in a loop and swoop fashion. What? Loop and swoop sketching? This dude said he was scared for his partner's life. They're like, nah, man, that ain't gonna work. Same place that is dealing with this brother who was just choked to death. Now, they hadn't convicted any other officers and all other stuff that's been done. But this black one, somehow he gets convicted.
You
Go ahead,
know,
bro.
even in the situation of what you were talking about with the 75-year-old man that they pushed down, just you've mentioned several times about it being a gang, and they stick together.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear that? What, 70-something of them all quit because they
Right.
57?
Yeah, they said they so-called resigned because you want to discipline the one cop, so they all gonna stick together in protecting the cop that pushed down this 75-year-old man. That 75-year-old man was a white man.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, his head hit that ground. I mean, it was a horrible sound. And I mean, big old policeman, muscle-bound dude with his armor on. What could that 75-year-old man have done to you with all that armor and your weaponry, and he walking up like a 75-year-old man? There's a difference when a 25-year-old man walk up at you and when a 75-year-old man walk up to you. What was he gonna do to him? If you're that scared, you need another job. If that 75-year-old man scared you, you need another job. But what other job is going to allow you to beat and kill people and then get a vacation for everyone you kill? Every time you kill something, you get paid administrative leave. But the neighbors are like, you on vacation again? Who you shot? Right. Go ahead.
The jury verdict, handed down after 2 days of deliberations, raises questions about Philando Castile's murder during a 2016 traffic stop.
Because we're dealing with the same thing. That's why we're coming back here, because we're dealing with the same place. Go ahead.
Castile, a 32-year-old Minnesota school cafeteria worker, was shot and killed by St. Anthony police officer Geronimo Yanez, while reaching for his license and registrations as the officer requested.
As the officer requested, give me your license and registration. Then he moved and then he shot him. Now, if you think back to the kids in Atlanta when they pulled up and bust out the window, you notice the boy sitting there holding the steering wheel? Because that's what they tell us, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. You don't know what that is? Understand, kids, 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Where? 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. This is your hands on the steering wheel. That way, can't nobody claim you reaching for nothing. Because your hands are visible and they close, ain't nothing on them. Go ahead.
Castile was licensed to carry a weapon and informed the officer that he had a firearm.
This is why I don't answer no questions. Once he actually admitted to the officer, I'm licensed to carry a weapon and I have a weapon, boom, I can say he reached for that. He had already gave him an alibi for the murder that he was about to commit. Go ahead.
Yanez then pulled out his gun and began shooting Castile as his girlfriend and her 4-year-old daughter sat in the car. Yanez claimed he feared for his life and was acquitted of 2 counts of second-degree manslaughter. A dozen people were killed by Minnesota cops in 2018, per the Washington Post National Database. The state has also come under fire for its lack of transparency in police-involved shootings. Officer Noor is the first police officer in Minnesota's history to be convicted of murder while in the line of duty.
Now, they protect every other cop, yet this black one was able to get convicted when he shot a white person. These are not accidents, people. This is their system. Go ahead.
SAPA believes the institutional prejudice against people of color, including officers of color, have heavily influenced the verdict of this case. The aggressive manner in which the Hennepin County Attorney's Office went after Officer Noor reveals that there were other motives at the play other than serving justice.
Right, but the same ones that tell you, let's not rush to judgment when it comes down to this white officer who is being charged with murder. But let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 50. See, they claim it's so hard to convict the officer. They didn't have no problem convicting that officer. And check that out. Our people are marching against police brutality, and then we get more black officers charged for police brutality in the last week. But see, we're gonna go out. We gotta go out and protect massive stuff. We got these people burning down our cities. You mean our? Tell me where we own something. They burn down our cities. And people talking about, don't burn down your city. How the hell is it mine? I don't own that in it. Jeremiah chapter 50, let's start that at verse 1.
The word that Yahweh spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Declare you among the nations, and publish, and set up a standard. Publish, and conceal not. Say, Babylon is taken, Bel is confounded, Marduk is broken in pieces.
Right. Marduk is the idol of Baal, and Baal is Baal, who is also called Lord. This place is mad about their idols. Go ahead.
Her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces. For out of the north there comes up a nation against her.
Right. And Russia already, Russia got an inside operative. Donald Trump worked for Russia, and the white supremacists don't even know it. And if the sign is on the wall, anything Russia, he is about. He will come against everybody and say anything about any American, any Asian, any Hispanic. He will say anything, but he will never say anything against Russia. He is a Russian operative. And they don't see. This is going to be the means by which you're going to be destroyed, not us. We ain't trying to destroy you. That destruction ain't going to come from us. Go ahead.
Which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast.
And this is how we know that this is not discussing the old Babylon, because it says she shall no longer be inhabited again. People still live in modern day Iraq, where Babylon began. Go ahead.
In those days and in that time, says Yahweh, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Yehudah together, going and weeping. They shall go and seek Yahweh, their Elohim.
So these are the things that you have to put together. That the fall of Babylon also coincides with the redemption of the children of Israel. Those things go hand in hand. So she has to be destroyed. Go ahead.
They shall ask the way to Zion with their faces thitherward, saying, Come, and let us join ourselves to Yahweh in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray.
Right. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. Because they're not going to mention anything about the word of Yahweh. They're going to get and have their forums and do all of their things. You have many preachers coming on TV telling people, don't burn down your cities. Don't do all of these things. Y'all go back home. If you want to change something, go to the polls. Everything we just read, let us know that those polls is a joke. The shepherds have led them astray. Because every time something come up, some preacher got to show up and tell everybody to calm down and go back home. Be good little slave. Go ahead.
They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. All that found them have devoured them. And their adversaries said, we offend not, because they have sinned against Yahweh.
They don't believe that they are offensive by killing us dead in the street. Say, we offend not. This is why they don't even look at it as a crime. But why look at it as a crime if you're 3/5 of a human being? How can I be charged fully for a crime against a man that was only 3/5 of a man? So you need to understand what you're up against. Go ahead.
The habitation of justice, even Yahweh, the hope of their fathers. Remove out of the midst of Babylon, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be as the he-goats before the flocks. For, lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country.
An assembly of great nations is going to come against her. And see, this has become the catalyst that is feeding all of those things. Because all of those nations are sitting there looking, look at this hypocrite. She came over here in our land with all her guns, telling us how we need to treat our people. And look at what she's doing over there to her people. And while she's doing all of this, they're getting together talking. They're getting together, gathering up. They can watch us all they want. They can put spies in our house. They can bug our phones. They can bug our shoes. They can do whatever they want. Your destruction not coming from us. You can watch me all day. I'm not going to do it. We're not going to do it. They putting all their time and energy in watching us. But the assembly of nations that Yahweh is putting together, who's angry at the daughter of Babylon, oh, she not playing. And they learning all of her problems. Each election now, Russia is agitating each election. For all we know, it was Russians down there, downtown Atlanta, because they had some white people that was dressed in all black, that had black lined up. You couldn't see nothing but their eyes, wrapped up all over, head to toe, gloves on, everything. If you didn't look close, you couldn't even tell they were white. You just had to see the blue eyes. Spraying Black Lives Matter on buildings. To the point where black people started arguing with them. Hey man, who told you to do that? Got one white boy on the top of a building, kicking a hole in it. He about to set the building on fire. They gonna blame us for that. They made that white boy get off that building. What you doing? These people from other places coming in and setting these fires. But while all that attention is being paid on us, this is how righteous judgment comes. It does not come from the people who you did the wrong to. Yahweh is so much smarter than that. So people do wrong to somebody, and then they're constantly watching that person. What you doing? What you doing? Why you walking over there? Where you go? Don't walk behind me now. Don't walk behind me. What's wrong with you? Because I know what I did to you. So I don't want you behind me now. I don't trust you being behind me. Because I stabbed you in the back, and I know you won't stab me in my back because I stabbed you in yours. And I'm watching now. And they spend all that time watching us. And here come one of their so-called friends and come and stab them in the back. You just spent all your time watching me. Don't you think my God is smarter than that? Do you think my God is so simple that he's going to get revenge on you by using me? Don't you think he's more intelligent than that? Go ahead, brother.
There was a report of 10 folks that they arrested. They were from out of town. They all got bailed out by one person from out of town.
Right. And I don't know if y'all heard that. There was one story that they arrested about 10 people from out of town, and then they all got bailed out by the same one person. I mean, there were clearly some other people at work here, because they're on a mission to make the whole nation hate us. And eventually it's going to work. One way or another, something has to happen, because Yahweh has to get the attention of the children of Israel. See, right now, it's too many of us that believe that we can vote and save the system. We still think that. We don't think that, no, it is time for her to pay for the things that she has done. And that's Yahweh's job. That's not our job. So I won't be out anywhere trying to be judge, jury, and executioner on no man. Because some of those people are earning their salvation out there dealing with what their people have done. And who am I to figure out who they are? That's Yahweh's job. That ain't my job either. Go ahead, brother.
And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain.
Right. That means they're going to hit everything they aim at. Now you know Yahweh is against you when somebody has 100% accuracy. Go ahead.
And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, says Yahweh. Because you are glad, because you rejoiced, O you destroyers of mine heritage, because you are grown fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls. Your mother shall be sore confounded.
Who's the mother?
England.
You got it. The European nations, though she was supposed to be a colony. She was supposed to be colonies for Europe, but she then fought for her independence. But her and her mother still deal hand in hand. Go ahead.
Because you are grown fat as heifers at grass, and bellow as bulls, your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Because of the anger of Yahweh it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goes by Babylon shall be astonished, and hiss at all her plagues.
And hiss at all her plagues. She has a underground bomb sitting in the middle of this country, which if it blows, it's going to separate this country and redraw the map altogether anyway. Go ahead.
Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all you that bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare nor arrows, for she has sinned against Yahweh.
So now this is Yahweh getting indignation, but he's using an assembly of nations to perform that. So they can follow us all they want. This ain't coming from us. My God is much bigger than what you think you see. Go ahead.
Shout against her round about. She has given her hand. Her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of Yahweh. Take vengeance upon her. As she has done, do unto her.
Man, remember what was that Stephen Jackson said? I know why y'all afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all afraid that we're going to pull a you on you. It says, do unto her as she has done. And boy, that brings to mind a whole lot of evil if that's the case. It take a minute to even figure all that out. Go ahead.
Cut off the sword from Babylon, and him that handles the sickle in the time of harvest. For fear of the oppressing sword, they shall turn every one to his people. And they shall flee every one to his own land.
Right. See, once the fear of that invasion starts happening, all of these people who got somewhere to go, gonna go there. Now see, this is what leaves us in a very compromising point. Because you can't just go and say, okay, we're from Africa, let's go to Africa. That's a continent. It's 50 plus countries there. Where are you going in Africa? But all of the mingled people that are among her will start leaving. See, she's so busy doing what she's doing. She's going to be so enveloped in doing all of this stuff that she's not even going to pay attention that all of this is even going on. That all the mingle people in her will start leaving. They keep talking about, we want these people out. Now, we're looking at the projections for population growth. All of a sudden, they're going to get what they're asking for. Because once it started looking like destruction, they sitting here trying to get rid of the Mexicans, get rid of the Hispanics. Once it looked like they're going to get bombed, they're like, andale, let's get the hell out of here. Hey, amigo, let's go. They ain't got to worry about that. Now they're going to have to try to build a wall to keep them in. They'll be like, no, open this wall, man. Let us out. Liberty's about to be destroyed. Go ahead.
Yisrael is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria has devoured him, and last, this Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, has broken his bones. Therefore, thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land, as I have punished the king of Assyria. And I'll bring Yisrael again to his habitation, and he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. In those days and in that time, says Yahweh, the lawlessness of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none. And the sins of Yehudah, and they shall not be found. For I will pardon them whom I reserve.
Whom I reserve, I will pardon. See, we are fighting to be the remnant that Yahweh is going to bring through. He don't need everybody. Go ahead.
Go up against the land of Merathaim, even against it and against the inhabitants of Pekod, waste and utterly destroy after them, says Yahweh, and do according to all that I have commanded you. A sound of battle is in the land, and of great destruction.
And this is one of the things that you can definitely tell is talking about this land. Go ahead.
How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken?
The hammer of the whole earth. She in everybody's country telling them how to live. Every time something happen, American soldiers somewhere else fighting. Why you over there? We're going to set forth democracy. Yours don't even work. This is the longest democracy experiment that has ever been on the face of the earth. Go ahead, bro.
No, the one thing they call America is global cop.
Yes, global cop is one of the things that they call it, which can automatically fit right here in verse 23, the hammer of the whole earth. Global cop is all in everybody's business except her own. Go ahead.
How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? I have laid a snare for you, and you are also taken, O Babylon, and you was not aware.
You was not aware. See, so busy focusing on the people that they've done wrong. And when you've done like so many nations and individuals wrong, it's very, very difficult to figure out where your destruction is coming from. So then they're focusing all on us. But them people got nuclear weapons. You're looking at the wrong people. You're looking at us. We don't have the stuff here to do that. But they're spending all their time policing and watching us. Go ahead.
You are found and also caught, because you have striven against Yahweh. Yahweh has opened his armory and has brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Adonai Yah of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans.
He has opened up his armory. It says, because you have striven against Yahweh. See, when you do things against Yahweh, it says, you are the apple of my eye. Yes, I have punished you, Israel, for your disobedience. But then I'm going to punish him who touches you. See, that's that part they didn't get. Go ahead.
Come against her from the utmost border. Open her storehouses. Cast her up as heaps and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. Slay all her bullocks. Let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day is come, the time of their visitation. the voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of Yahweh our Elohim, the vengeance of his temple.
The vengeance of his temple. See, when you go back into the Maccabees and start reading, and you find out who went in there and destroyed Yahweh's temple. Europeans. Who went and did all of those things? That's why they didn't want the Apocrypha as a part of the original canon. So you got to get another book that has First and Second Maccabees in it, because they didn't want that in the Bible, because it lists the names of the Gentiles who came and trodden down the temple, who came and killed Israelites because they wanted to keep the Sabbath, who killed Israelites because they wanted to get their kids circumcised, as thus said Yahweh our Elohim. So they didn't want that in there. Go ahead.
Called together the archers against Babylon. All you that bend the bow, camp against it round about. Let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work. According to all that she has done, do unto her. For she has been proud against Yahweh, against the Holy One of Israel. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, says Yahweh.
Right. Yahweh says, I'm going to make you feel what you made my people feel. You made my people feel the loss of children. Your turn. Go ahead.
Behold, I am against you, O you most proud, says the Adonai Yahweh of hosts. For your day is come, the time that I will visit you. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I'll kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him.
Right. Yahweh said, I'm going to kindle a fire in the cities. They said when something happened, well, won't you just deal with that problem? Why you got to set target on fire? They mad about their target. They do have some high quality, things in there. Go ahead, brother.
Thus says Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Yehudah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go.
Right. They refused to let them go. When they said they abolished slavery, all they did was find another way to make us slaves. See, what they ended up saying is, okay, slavery is abolished unless it's a situation of breaking the law. So all they got to do is accuse us of a law, and they can legally make us slaves again. That's in their legal writing. Go ahead.
Their Redeemer is strong. Yahweh of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, says Yahweh, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote.
And I was looking at one thing. He said, all police do is lie. They are instructed to lie for one another. Think about the situation where I think it was either North or South Carolina, where this 50, 60-year-old man was running from a traffic stop. He got on his church shoes. He's sliding all over the place. He can't get nowhere. Boom. Police shoot him. Another police come and plant evidence. They're encouraged to lie for one another. Go ahead.
A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. A sword is upon their horses, and upon their chariots, and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her.
All the mingled people which are in the midst of her. What other nation was built all from other people? There's no other land that has a mingled people like this land. That was her creed. Bring us your poor, your disenfranchised. They got all the other people from the European nations came here. All the ones that was in trouble came here. And that's part of the problem, because the Bible says it is much trouble whenever a servant bears rule. What you're looking at is the offspring of the European troublemakers came here and ended up in charge. And what they did was more brutal than what anybody could ever have imagined. Go ahead.
and they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. For it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols. Therefore the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation.
Right. So then we know this is not talking about old Babylon. It says when this goes down, it is not going to be able for anybody to live in it. So then now we got to be talking about nuclear fallout. We're talking about even if that caldera blow, maybe they shoot a bomb at it. Who knows? And it cracks this nation in half, then the water roll in on it. Somehow it's going to be where only the animals can live in it. And I can tell you from that situation that happened in Chernobyl, when that nuclear reactor situation happened in Russia, all they could do was build a wall around it. And it's been 50, 60 years. Radioactive still unto this day. But the animals are living with radiation inside of them. All they could do was just build a wall. There was no fixing Chernobyl. That was it. Once the accident happened and there was nuclear power leaked out, done deal. No fixing. Go ahead.
As Elohim overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, said Yahweh, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coast of the earth. They shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel, and will not show mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea.
They are cruel and will not show mercy. Yahweh says, I will have judgment without mercy unto those who have had judgment without mercy. The ones who react immediately and say that they felt that their life was threatened is the first one that says, hold on now, let's not rush to judgment. Yahweh says, you who have had judgment without mercy, you're going to get judgment without mercy. So ain't no need of begging for your life. Because no matter how much these other people beg for their life, you had no answer for them. Go ahead.
And they shall ride upon horses, every one put in array, like a man to the battle against you, O daughter of Babylon. The king of Babylon has heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan unto the habitation of the strong. But I'll make them suddenly run away from her. And who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her? For who is like me? And who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Therefore, hear you the counsel of Yahweh, that he has taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he has purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out.
Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. America has made a evil union with a place called Israel. Israel is going to draw America into the worst war because now the cart is being put before the horse. She is making all kind of decisions. She does not respect America, though America gives her all kind of money. This place and generals are speaking against it, that Israel purposely attacked an American ship and killed soldiers, and nobody did anything. If that had happened, if any other nation had done that, there would have been no war before the night was out. But they helped set up Israel. And Israel knows that she has America so tied up that if she jumps into a war, America is going to follow without asking any questions. So this little old bitty group of people is going to draw her in some of the biggest conflicts. But understand what Yahweh accomplishes by allowing the daughter of Babylon to fall. This now puts Israel on her own without the big bad bully behind her. So it doesn't just change the aspect of one thing. It changes the whole view of the so-called Middle East once the hammer of the earth is taken out of the way. Oh, it creates all kind of situations. So Yahweh knows what he's doing. Go ahead.
Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved.
The entire earth is going to move at the taking of Babylon. This says that this is going to be a mighty event. If the whole, because there are prophecies that said the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. It's going to wobble off its axis. So something pretty strong has to happen to do that. Go ahead.
And the cry is heard among the nations.
All right. That's all that we're going to do for today. Believe you me, that there are other things that we can go into. But I already got people looking at me with that hungry look. You know what I'm saying? When you get that look that you starting to look delicious, you know what I'm saying? You know, you probably been reading for a little while, you know what I'm saying? When they start looking at you like that. All right, we're going to try to be on time. 5:30, Bible trivia. Get your little, whatever that thing is. Get the Zoom thing ready, whatever that is. Yeah, get the app, do whatever that is y'all got to do. So you'll be ready when we get ready to do it at 5:30. You can call in if you need to. We have emailed out the little code to join. So if you need that, send us an email to theuci.org@gmail.com. Please look at your email first before you start sending us emails. Okay? Look and see if you already have one. So we're not adding you back to the list and you already own it. So check and make sure. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.